Hey folks, I'm attorney Roger P. Foley, and as I'm driving to the courthouse this morning, I'm thinking about the fear of competition. Now, when I think about fear, I always think of Cus D'Amato talking about the difference between the hero and the coward. And he said, there's two men and they're standing in a line. And the simple difference between the two is that the hero, he's scared. He's scared just like the coward is. But he grits his teeth, clenches his hands, and he takes a half a step forward. And in life, that's the difference between a hero and a coward. Boxing was something that, as long as you want to fight, you'll get a fight. I was scared. I had fear. I can't tell you how many times in my fighting career where I would go into the bathroom before the tournament started and I'd be cramping up and like holding my stomach and pain. And I think the pain came from stress. Looking at the person, always being the last fight, being a heavyweight, it scared me. It caused me pain. It caused me to be in the restroom. And when I would get out there, it was, after the first punch, after the face-off. Even the face-off, I was a little bit nervous. But once the first one or two punches were thrown, whether it was by me or my opponent, the fear was gone, and I started to get into my rhythm. Now, had a lot of success with boxing. Think I could have had more. Think I could have had more in football. Think I could have had more in BMX, right? I want to be as good as I can be. And in law, I've been practicing many years. I still get nervous. Sometimes I get nervous before emotion is suppressed. Sometimes I get, mostly emotions to suppress. I'll get nervous. I'm like, and I won't be able to sleep because I feel like I need to study. I always have that, I'm not prepared enough. I got to prepare more. I got to know every fact. I got to know where it is on the timeline kind of thing. And in trials, it's even more so because there's so many things to think about. I'm thinking about my voir dire questions. And I'm thinking about, the questions I'm going to ask the jury members. How am I going to appear? What's my body language going to be? Are they going to accept me, right? Because if they don't like me, if they don't like my tie, if they think I dress too fancy, if they don't think I dress good enough, if whatever. Remember, when you're in a jury trial, you're being analyzed. They're looking at every aspect of what you're doing, you and your client. So I got to think about the voir dire, choosing the jury. And then I got to try to remember people's names when I can never remember a name. And it's nerve-wracking when you can't remember them. I'm like, all right, number 7. I'm sorry, guys. I'm terrible at names. Number 7, Mr. Jones. All right, Mr. Jones. Tell me a little bit about you in regards to this aspect. What do you think about, I gave you this scenario. Tell me what your thoughts on it. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Try to get them to open up. And after you go through jury selection, you're going to do your opening. And opening is important. It's just as important as closing. I want to make sure that I don't say something in my opening where I'm promising something I can't deliver. So I'm constantly cutting down my opening argument. And then there's the state's direct. And trying to be economical with my objections. Making sure that I prep for my objections, because you get rusty. You don't do math every day. You start to slip. I don't do trials every day. So then I find myself weeks before my trial going over my objection book and hearsay and compound question and lacks foundation, because I want to get a prosecutor out of their rhythm if I can, and I want to make sure that I don't harm myself or my client. We're like, oh my goodness, will this guy just let this prosecutor get out a question? Because if I do that to a jury, it's not going to go so well for my client. So I got to be careful of what I do, but I also want to make sure that I disrupt the flow. Then your motion for directed verdict, making sure it's said properly, making sure that I'm concise with my statement. They rarely get granted, folks, and that's where you say, even in the light most favorable to the state, no reasonable jury could, come to the conclusion based on the facts, and they're missing this element kind of thing. And most of the time that gets denied. Even when you think maybe there's a chance on this case, it won't be, it gets denied. Because there's always something, right, that the judge goes, I don't know, someone can come back with a guilty on that. And that's the judge's job. And then it's the defense case. It's what witnesses am I putting up? And if I'm introducing evidence, what evidence am I doing? So you see that there's a lot of aspects to it. And one of the reasons I bring this up is I recently watched a jury trial, and I thought that prosecutor did a phenomenal job. And I'm actually meaning to send her an email. She is tough. She keeps everything cool, calm, and collected, and you can tell that she has a lot of experience with jury trials. The prosecutor, I thought you were a defense attorney. Yeah, I'm giving props to a prosecutor that I just thought, wow, she was concise, she was accurate, she was detailed, she presented a case, regardless of my thoughts on the case of the facts or not, presented all of the arguments, presented the case law, objected at the appropriate times, and just did one hell of a job. I don't know what other people have. I joke when I know boxing, and I know that fighters, regardless of what they say, there's fear. There's fear of losing. There's fear of being knocked out, of being embarrassed in front of your friends and your family. There's fear of not performing to your best abilities. And all of those things transition to being a criminal defense and personal injury attorney. And when I hear people say, oh, my attorney said that, oh, no problem, this should get thrown out, I guarantee it'll get dismissed, we'll go to trial and smoke these people. Talk is cheap, folks. Fear is real. Respect the fear. Don't fall into the fear, because there's the fear that you run the other way, or you're the coward in Cus D'Amato's statement, where you don't take the step forward, where you don't go, oh man, I'm scared, but half a step forward. Because if you don't take the half a step forward, if you don't rush into the fire, if you don't enter the race, you can't win. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking about this morning as I drive to the courthouse to do a simple expungement. I'm attorney Roger P. Foley. What's your fear?